think Japan is expensive or cheap compared to the US? What do you think of those cheap houses in Japan? So today I'm in Shibuya, in the heart of Tokyo, and I'm going to talk to some foreign residents of Japan and some tourists to see what they think about the cost of living or cost of goods in Japan. So where are you from?
I'm from Germany.
Do you live in Japan or are you visiting?
Yes, I live here in Japan for 2.5 years constantly, but if you count everything together, like also exchange year, then it would be like 4.5 years right now, yeah.
How do you compare the cost of living today with Japan and Germany?
I went back to Germany just for visiting in summer this year, and I just realized how expensive Germany has gotten. And Japan, as compared to that, I would say Japan's cheaper right now.
So can you give an example, like a meal or something, like lunch or something? Like how much would you pay here for lunch and then versus in Germany?
For lunch here in Japan, you can get it for 600 to 1,000 yen. It's like a realistic price range if it's like something more cheap.
Yeah.
And in Germany, it would be like more 800 to 1,200 yen.
How about housing, like living situation? Where do you live?
I live here in Tokyo.
Okay. And so we're in Shibuya right now, but like close to here.
Yeah, we're in Shibuya.
And can I ask you how much you pay for rent?
Yes, so the basic rent is 50,000 yen, but all in all, it's like 64,000 yen, 65,000 yen.
So how that would be like in euro? Would that be like 400, 500 euro per month?
About 500, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, you live in Nerima is still Tokyo. If you lived in close to the center of the city where you're from in Germany, for similar kind of apartment, how much would that be?
Yeah, that's a good question because the apartments in Germany are maybe a little bit more spacious, bigger, but I would say for similar apartments, similar location would be more like 700 euro, 800 euro maybe.
Oh wow! So almost again like a double, close to your double.
I would say 1.5.
1.5. Yeah. And that's also because of the weak currency too, right? Like the yen as of today, I think it's like $1 is like 148, 149 yen, which is really really weak.
I think one reason is the weak currency, definitely. Yeah. The other reason is that I think you can find affordable apartments in Tokyo for rent. In German big cities, it's not that easy to find an affordable apartment. But so in Tokyo, you don't have to be rich to live in an apartment here, in my opinion.
What was your expectations of coming to Japan 2.5 years ago? Did you think Tokyo especially was an expensive place, or did you have an expectation?
Yeah, so in my opinion, Tokyo isn't that expensive like I thought. But what's expensive is more if you have a lifestyle like going out a lot, then it's expensive. But if you try to save money and do your research in apartment and your research in how to save money and stuff, then it's not too expensive.
So my channel, I talk a lot about real estate, and these days, Japanese real estate. Have you heard of the Akiya issue in Japan?
Yeah. Akiya Mondai, yeah.
So we have, I think, about 10 million empty houses all across Japan, and this number keeps increasing because of the depopulation, shrinking population, and aging population. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's sad, kind of like, right? There's so many houses that are empty that nobody wants to buy or nobody wants to live in.
So this obviously reduces the price of, these houses, empty houses, right? Where in most developed countries, real estate markets are, the prices are going up, very inflated. Affordability is very low, right? I'm guessing like Germany is around the same. Like the US, Australia, affordability is like all-time low. People want to buy houses, but they can't because they're so expensive. But Japan, we have an opposite problem. Would you be interested in buying a house in Japan, or do you think it's risky?
Generally, I'm interested in owning property in Japan. I don't know if it has to be an Akiya. It really depends on the condition, how much I have to renovate, because renovation also costs money and time and energy.
Yeah, because things might change in the future, right? Yeah, more foreigners might move in and they might buy houses, which might increase the property prices or land prices in some locations. Where are you from?
We're from the Netherlands, and I live in Berlin, and she lives in Amsterdam.
I live in Amsterdam.
Amsterdam and Berlin.
Yes.
Okay. And when did you get to Japan?
Yesterday. Yeah.
Okay. So is this your first? Have you been here before, or is this your first time?
No, No.
It's the first time for us both.
Welcome to Japan. What do you think so far?
It's crazy.
It's fucking amazing.
We've only seen Shibuya so far, but
Yeah.
it's, wow.
And it's like all the stuff you know from like Google Images and what people show online.
Yeah.
It's all true. It's all here. All the
Yeah.
stereotypes, like how people dress on the streets. Like it's amazing. Like it's really cool to be here.
Yeah.
So you've only spent less than a day in Japan. So I don't know how this applies to you, but what do you think about, just eating, like, taking transportation, even like plane tickets or hotels, the cost of living or cost of goods in Tokyo or Japan compared to where you live?
Well, I think if you're from Amsterdam, everything is cheap
Yeah.
compared to Amsterdam. We've been to a great sushi place yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
It was like they made everything on the spot. We were sitting on the bar, and like the wines were really good.
yeah,
And
very fresh.
like compared to what you would pay in the Netherlands, like it was super cheap.
Yeah.
And
Transportation was great also. The train from the airport.
Got it. So as an example, say like dinner, a typical dinner, how much would you pay in the Netherlands and Berlin?
like per person in Amsterdam, at
60?
least 60, 70 euros, and then you're like very mediocre restaurants.
60, 70 euros.
And I think
per
in
person.
Berlin, like 40 euros, 30, 40 euros.
But that's when sitting down in a restaurant.
It really depends on, you can go as crazy as you want,
Yeah.
But you want to have some quality food, you will pay at least 50 euros a person.
Yeah. And then you had some sushi last night. How much did you pay?
Yesterday?
Yesterday, yeah.
30 euros per person.
So you feel that with the exchange rate, because Japanese yen's super weak right now, so you
Yeah.
feel that it's cheap. Okay.
Yeah.
What about the accommodations? Are you staying around here?
We're staying in a super cute Airbnb, and I think it's like 20 square meter, but they thought of everything. Like it has a little like makeup coffee corner. The bed is like 120, and we're like this in the bed. She also hit me last night.
Yeah.
I was like,
And
move.
my feet are sticking out.
No, but it's nice. Like the bathtub is like this big,
Yeah.
but like everything is there.
So I think it's kind of hard to compare how the hotels or Airbnb here, because it's really tiny compared to
But
Europe,
I mean,
right?
in Amsterdam, you can also like live literally in a place where they put the brooms,
Yeah.
and they ask you for 1,000 euros rent for like 6 square meters. So maybe in that sense, it's comparable to Amsterdam because everything is cramped up like crazy.
Yeah. So for
Yeah.
like an average apartment, say like 2-bedroom apartment, how much does it cost usually?
Amsterdam,
Yeah.
2,000 euros
I think so, yeah.
at least.
2,000 euros.
2,000
Yeah.
euros, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, rent,
Okay, that's definitely more expensive.
and that's like
than Tokyo.
without electricity, without Wi-Fi, without anything.
Oh wow. So the final topic is houses. Do you know like a real estate market in your city? Like, do you know how much a typical house might cost? In
think in
Well,
Amsterdam-
we have a huge housing problem in the Netherlands right now.
Okay.
I think we have to build like 300,000 houses extra to accommodate all the people that are searching for a house right now.
Yeah.
But
And
then
I
they
think
probably make the
like
houses at
a-
least like 8 ton.
A regular family home with 3 bedrooms, I think it's around 600,000 euros.
Wow.
But
Okay.
but then you live in like
And
the
then you live in
outskirts of the
the-
outskirts.
Yeah.
Like
Oh wow.
In Amsterdam,
you pay
a
like
million plus,
million.
definitely.
Oh my God.
minimum.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Japan is. I don't know if you've heard, but we have a problem,
Yeah.
Akiya problem, because of the depopulation and the shrinking population.
IKEA problem?
Akiya, yeah.
IKEA.
It sounds like IKEA,
have
like
an
Swedish,
IKEA
yeah, meaning empty houses. Or would you be interested in buying a house in Japan?
Maybe.
Maybe you could
Maybe
come
one
back
day.
more
Maybe
often.
someday.
Someday.
Yeah.
Where are you from?
We're from France, both of us. From a little town close to the German border called Strasbourg.
Okay.
I don't know if you know it. It's in the east of France.
East of France.
Yes.
Okay. And are you traveling Japan, or do you live here?
Now we're traveling in Japan, so we're staying here for 1 month.
Okay.
And we are at the end of our trip because we already started in Osaka.
Yeah.
We went to the south to Fukuoka because there is a sumo tournament.
Yeah.
So that was great. And then we're going to Thailand because we're doing a little trip around the world.
Oh, wow.
So that's the very
For 1
beginning
year?
for 1 year. So that's the
Can I-
very beginning.
Can I ask what you do for work?
I am nurse.
Yeah.
I send a medical device. So
Okay.
I work in the theater with orthopedic surgeons.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a specific job.
So
yeah.
how far into your 1 year trip? Is this the very beginning or
Yeah,
in the middle?
because we
Beginning in August.
Oh, so you started in August.
Yeah, we start with Iceland.
Iceland. Okay.
Iceland, and then we went to Jordan, which is quite different.
Yeah.
It was really windy and really cold in Iceland, and then we went to Jordan. It was super hot.
Yeah.
And then Indonesia, and then Japan. So it's the beginning because
Great.
it's 3 months already. So that's
Awesome.
exciting.
Yeah, and it's great because you've been here for a month, so you
Yeah,
know
exactly.
what Japan's like. So I wanted to ask you, compared to your country, France,
Okay.
how cheap or expensive is Japan right now?
A little cheaper. A little.
A little bit cheaper. Okay.
I think it's okay. I think the daily routine, the everyday life is okay. The train is quite expensive, but in France as well. So, and concerning the hotel and accommodation, I think it's not that expensive. I mean, it depends on which town. In Kyoto, it's a bit more expensive. But yeah, I think it's quite okay. Really,
Yeah.
for French people, it's okay. With
Yeah.
the euro and the yen,
Yeah.
it's okay.
Yeah.
I think it's similar.
I guess like overall, like accommodations and food-wise, you know, if you're staying in other countries, like where would you rank Japan in terms of cost?
Right now, on the top.
On the top.
No, really,
okay.
I think it's the best destination I saw for the moment. I mean,
Yeah.
it's quite different from
Yeah.
Iceland, and it's not the same landscape
Yeah.
and stuff like that. But I like the culture. I think there is something in this city.
Mm-hmm.
The vibe is quite different. People are nice. At the very beginning, we thought that Japan people were really quiet and not really nice, if I can say that. But actually, it's not true. We went to a bar yesterday, and
We met
some
some
people
people,
asked
help
for
us,
help, and
yes.
that's honestly, it's nice. It's nice,
Great.
and
Oh.
the food is amazing as well.
So your experience has been like top notch
Yeah.
compared to other countries that
For
you
the
visited.
moment,
Oh,
yes,
perfect. Okay.
exactly.
What about the cost of living? Like, staying, hotels and like, food. You say a little bit cheaper, but overall, where would you rank? Like, how much you spend in the last month compared to other?
Compared to other country,
Yeah.
I would say the most expensive country we've done is Iceland.
I bet.
That's honestly, it's super expensive. Even if you eat a small stuff for
A croissant and a cafe, 20 euro.
yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot. So I would say Indonesia was really cheap for us.
Yeah.
I would say Japan is in the middle.
So my last topic is about housing, especially houses. So in Japan, we have a big issue about empty houses. So there are about 10 million empty houses all over Japan because of the depopulation and aging population. So housing prices are quite cheap for the most part. What's it like in your country, in France? Are you experiencing something similar or completely the opposite problem where housing is like
I think
expensive?
it's the opposite problem. I mean, it's super expensive because there is a lack of house in France, especially in the big town, in Paris, in Strasbourg as well. So the price is rising up. It's super expensive. So there is not that much houses which are empty. Actually, people are looking for an accommodation. Actually, it's really hard to get one. Actually.
Yeah. So what's an average cost of a house, regular house?
Like a house, I don't know, maybe about for a flat. I would say for a flat, I would say 700 per month for a rent.
Okay.
For a rent.
What about to buy?
To buy?
Yeah.
Well, in Strasbourg, in a nice neighborhood, I would say 600k. Yeah.
Wow, for euro, right?
Yeah, in
Oh,
euro.
wow.
In
Okay.
euro. So that's quite a lot,
Yeah.
especially at the moment because the rate of the credit increasing. So it's really hard to get money from the bank right now.
Right.
Yeah.
So in Japan, even in Tokyo,
Okay.
it's probably about like between $200,000 to $300,000
Okay.
on average to buy a house.
For a
even
house.
like a new house.
That's mean what? 50 meters carry? I mean, what's the surface for this price?
Probably like 80 to 90 square meters. Yeah.
So it's quite okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
very average.
I thought it was more expensive.
Right?
Oh, yeah,
it's,
yeah, I
it's
think.
cheap. For
Yeah.
used homes, it's even cheaper. There are a lot of cheap houses under $100,000. If it was that cheap, would you consider buying a house in Japan? Maybe one day.
Yeah, maybe. First of all, you have to decide that you want to live here. Yeah. But yeah, why not?
Speak Japanese.
Speak Japanese. I think it's a lot of effort to get to use it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, why not?
Where are you originally from?
So I'm from Arizona. Specifically, I was like around the Phoenix area. Lived there for most of my life.
Okay. And now you're based in Japan. You live
Based in Japan for about 2 years now.
2 years.
Yeah.
Okay. And what do you think about Japan?
I love every second of being here. I mean, it's definitely the most amazing place in the world, in my opinion.
Yeah. And did you have any ties to Japan before?
Family that lives like near Kyushu, but I wanted to come specifically to Tokyo just because one of the biggest cities. Down south is probably a little bit cheaper to be, but I like it in Tokyo the most, I would say.
Nice. So, 日本語も大丈夫?
日本語大丈夫です。はい、喋れ。
Okay,
Hi.
we'll do this in English.
That works as well.
Okay, so I'm asking questions about like cost of living.
Yeah.
So you've been here for 2 years.
2 years, yep.
And Japan has changed, or maybe around the world has changed quite a bit in the last 2 years. But in terms of cost of living, what do you think about? Do you think Japan is expensive or cheap compared to the U.S.?
So it's definitely cheaper in compared to the U.S. I also think it kind of depends on what currency you have. Now that the USD was really strong, it was really nice to have it exchange rate. But now that my money's all in like Japanese yen, I would say that the cost of living is still much, much cheaper than the US, almost in every way. I would say, I think compared to the US, you would have to probably live with at least 4 roommates to get the price that you would have in Japan.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so you live in Tokyo right now. Can I ask how much rent you pay?
Yeah, so before I was paying probably about 700 USD, which I think roughly translated about 90,000 yen. And I think right now it's a little bit cheaper in a USD comparison at least.
Yeah. And then to get something like that in the center of Phoenix, how much would that be?
Probably a couple thousand at least. I mean, you're probably looking at least, and that would be like with a roommate, I'd probably be paying at least 1,000 with a roommate if I could get the same size kind of place. Honestly, I'd probably be like impossible in a way. I think at least like when I lived back in the States, I was paying probably 1,300, 400, and I had like 2 roommates. And it was nothing near what even the size of what I have right now in Japan.
What about eating? So say like a typical lunch in Japan, and then typical lunch in the U.S.
Yeah.
Like how do you compare that cost-wise?
Cost-wise, I would say, I mean, you could probably get a meal here for about like 600 yen on a good day, and like that's $4, nothing. And I think I could do that for every single meal if you want to. I mean, I just got like done with lunch and I only paid I think 700 yen, and I mean that was good enough for like me. And I think it's probably about half the price, I would say, than from the States. You could eat out anywhere here and probably get about half the price.
Yeah, oh, that's wild. I have a channel about like talking about houses, especially Akiya. Have you heard of an Akiya problem?
I have not.
So Akiya means empty houses.
Yeah.
So there are a ton of empty houses in Japan because of depopulation and aging population, right? People are moving to like cities, so like those rural areas, you know, there's no one to take over those houses, older houses. So housing prices are like coming down and as a whole of Japan. And I'm guessing Arizona is the opposite, right?
Only going up. Definitely only going up. And I think even now I have a lot of friends that live in like Kawasaki. Even if you just go right outside of Tokyo, you're looking at a couple $100 less in rent. Yeah. And I think the further out you get, I think it's everyone's kind of dream is, in a weird way, to almost move out of Tokyo just because the housing is so much cheaper everywhere else.
Yeah. Do you know how much it costs to buy a house in Arizona today?
I think even if you're just getting a like 1 story, you're paying at least like a couple, like maybe like 100, like 50,000, if not more, probably even close. Actually, not even then, probably closer to like 400,000. I know in the States. I think on our last house that we had in the States, and this was just family, I think we paid probably dang close to like 500,000. And that was for nothing as like big as you probably could get before. That's not even in the city either. So if you're living in the city, you're probably looking closer to a couple like million. If you're not, like if you're even in a nice area. In Gilbert, I think we had 2 stories, and it was I think close to $1 million.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and that's almost impossible, I think, to get nowadays.
Yeah. I mean, depends on where in Tokyo. Obviously, there are like $1 million homes,
of
but
course.
like on average, I think it's about like 300,000 in Tokyo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you consider buying a house in Japan one day?
Yeah, I mean that's I think the dream for everybody. I think you want to live here. I love where I live right now, but I mean after working here for a couple of years, I would obviously hope to. I think it's more plausible here. I think if I went back to the States, I'd probably have to live with family for at least a good couple of years to even amount to afford like a mortgage payment. But here I could probably buy it and actually live here full time. I think that's why it's more plausible in Japan to live than compared to the States, for sure.
And one last question. What kind of people would be suitable to live and really enjoy living in Japan?
I think it takes a certain kind of person to be able to handle the first couple months. It's ups and downs. I think the kind of person that can live here is someone that I think wants to engage with the culture, wants to meet people from around the world if you're in Tokyo, because honestly, it isn't just Japan here, it's every single like country mixed into one. I think if you are adventurous, if you want to explore, there's a whole new world in every location, and every like prefecture you have is something totally new. So if you want to adventure and live in a place that's different everywhere, this is the place to be.
So where are you from?
From Lithuania.
So do you live in Japan now?
Yeah, I recently moved here.
Okay, how long have you been here?
I guess approximately 2 months.
Okay, so were you in Lithuania before, or were you somewhere else?
Actually, before coming here, I was traveling for almost 8 months all around Southeast Asia, and before that, I was studying in Singapore. So I haven't been to Lithuania quite a while.
So you've been here for 2 months, so you know how things are in terms of costs. So I'm asking people from other countries what they think about Japan, especially the prices. How do you find Japan? Do you think it's very cheap or expensive today?
It might be surprising, especially for European people, for American people. They still have the knowledge of before COVID times and like different currency rate exchanging, but currently it's so amazingly cheap. First, you get some inflation here, and it's like first time in so many years that like prices in the end get higher, but because of the exchange rate, everything seems so low. And in the current world, Japan is really cheap. It's super attractive. And in comparison to European prices, it's so easy to travel and to live right now here.
So just give me an example. Say like housing, right? So are you renting a place right now? So compared to like what you're renting now, if you had like something similar in Lithuania or any other cities or countries that you've been recently, how would that compare to what you have now?
So in Singapore, I was living in a dormitory, so it's different. But I was checking the houses if I can take my own room and have some shared facilities. So I think it was about 1 to 1.5 thousand USD. Currently, Singapore is also increased a lot since like 1 year that I was there before. But it was affordable. So I think taking into consideration that food prices in Singapore are quite cheap, so you can go to the hawker center and you can have very affordable food. Then Lithuania this summer, again, shared facilities. I pay like 600 euros, which is like 640 USD, 650, I guess. Mm-hmm. But I would say if you want to have like the good 1-bedroom apartment in like close to the city center for just yourself, that's gonna cost you like about 700 to 1,000. Yeah. Currently in Japan, I was both taking search for the private apartment and for the share house. So the private apartment, I was like, oh my god, it's under 1K. I expected to pay 3K here, honestly. Because my friends lived here before COVID, and I say like, oh, 2K is like the basic minimum that you already need to be ready to spend. And I'm like, okay, then maybe higher right now. So I'm like, okay, 3K. And I'm coming, and like even the private apartment, even with like, you're searching for in a friendly that is a little bit higher than for Japanese, they are still under 1K. And you might pay just 1 month deposit and like key exchange fee, and that's it. Extremely surprised. So like 800 to 1,100. You can definitely find a lot of options. English friendly, located where you want exactly in the area. And
are you familiar with the Akiya problem that Japan's going through? Yeah, so like there are so many empty houses in Japan, right? Because of the depopulation and aging population. So houses are very cheap. And is that something that your country is going through, or it's quite the opposite?
No, it's quite the opposite.
So people are moving in.
Yeah, people are moving in, and especially we have seen it.
Kids, I guess.
Oh, not so not so many as the government wants, like in every developed country. So in Lithuania, we have the different issue. I think after the COVID, or like during the COVID, there were many people who were living in other European countries, and they moved back to the country, and they bring a lot of their foreign capital. Lithuania is not that rich, and before COVID it was rather lower level of like very attractive for tourists to come and have like the beer for €2. It was like, oh, amazing. But foreign capital came, and then war started, so the prices both for rent and for purchase increased. So it doesn't matter, even if you want a house in a village. Also, the influence of COVID, remote work. You can work from everywhere. You need to come to office maybe once a week. Maybe you don't even have to.
So, like, how much would a single family home in Lithuania on average would cost?
I think it's like single family home is rather like the American concept.
Yeah,
so
it's like
we got like
3 bedroom,
apartments.
3 bedroom.
Yeah, well, like
Okay.
2-3 bedroom apartments.
Yeah.
If we are talking about the capital Vilnius, it will start from 100. You want a private house and like decent private house. So I think it will start from 500,000. It will go like to several million.
So obviously in Japan, if you're in the center of Tokyo, like really nice houses, millions of dollars, but you could also find decent looking houses under $100,000. And I don't think you could find that anywhere in developed countries. If you had an opportunity, would you consider purchasing something like that in Japan?
Oh, definitely, yes. The topic of the cheap Japanese housing, like I just knew the name that is Akiya from your Instagram, actually.
Okay.
So we have a joke in my friend group that housing in Japan is practically the only one we can really afford buying. Like in any developed country in the world, I guess still you have a very high level of living here.
Right.
Like all the services and like super high quality, I guess like even higher than you would expect in any European country. And like the real estate price for this quality of living, I think is comparatively low, especially for like Western-minded person.
And my final question would be, so you've been to many other Asian countries, South Korea, Singapore. Did you say Indonesia as well? Yeah. Okay. And Japan? Yeah. Taiwan. What's your favorite country?
It's a very tricky question. I think it's very simplified. I have my own priorities. They would be like accessible and pedestrian-friendly urban planning. I'm getting older, so for me, the calmness also matters a lot. And yeah, like cycling is much better here. I have my bicycle, I rent the bicycle, I just try to cycle everywhere. It's my favorite, so it's like one of the priorities. So yeah.
Yeah, what are your plans for the rest of the time, and what do you hope to do after your 1 year?
I plan to get a job here quite soon, I guess in several months. So I still give myself time more to explore and live in a quiet pace. Later, I would say that I still plan to stay in Tokyo, but maybe having a part-time job of 2 days per week, so I can really take the short trips to the different Japanese cities, because it's like every small city, every small village, you have something to see. This is very special about Japan. You can really travel anywhere. That would be special. That would be amazing. You can do photography. You can do anything there. So yeah, I would be mostly focusing on traveling in Japan. After my time here, there are several options. So I pretty much like here everything at the moment. So I would love to stay, or at least have some business partly in Japan, partly in Europe, if it would be possible. Yeah. Just to grow your own veggies and to have this place for your soul where you can renovate it and have your DIY project. I love to do everything with my hands. So for me, it's even better to buy the place where I can give a lot of my personal touch than I would buy the beton box as like apartment. Yeah, so I definitely would prefer to have the place like that. And yeah, that would be definitely my will to spend a lot of time in Japan. Even if I'm not resident here, I would still be coming for longer periods.
Where are you from?
From Canada, Toronto.
Toronto. And how, you say you're visiting Japan right now? Okay. And how long have you been here?
I got here just maybe under 2 weeks ago.
We're actually on our honeymoon.
Oh my gosh, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, wow, that's exciting. And you chose Japan for your
Yes,
honeymoon.
we chose Japan, yes.
Okay. And are you going somewhere else after this or going back home?
We were in the Maldives first. We had a bougie first part, and now we're just kind of exploring the city.
Yeah, so I've never been to Toronto. I've been to Vancouver and Calgary. But I hear Toronto is like one of the most expensive places in North America. And, coming from there to Japan, how cheap is Japan? How did it feel for you?
It felt a little the same. The dollar right now, our Canadian dollar has never been that great, but right now, compared to the yen, it's a little good. So things feel a bit cheaper, but kind of just comparable. It just kind of feels like we're in Toronto. Oh. Yeah.
I will say though, like the cost of going out to eat, like for two of us to have dinner and 2 beers at a regular restaurant here is maybe $60 Canadian, like 600 yen. For 2 on like a nicer place.
6,000.
6,000, sorry.
Yeah, 6,000.
Yeah, and at home it would be easily at least $100 Canadian. So
Which is
Like
10,000? Yeah.
for 2 people?
For 2 people,
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
10,000 for dinner, yeah.
What about Like maybe accommodations, like hotel. Did you stay at hotels or like Airbnb?
Yeah.
Or?
We booked our hotels a year out, so we got them for like $90 a night. And when you check the same hotel now, it's like $230, $250 a night, which is still cheaper than Toronto. Yeah. Some hotels, the boutique ones, are like $400 or $500 a night. Yeah, so it's bad.
It's definitely, in terms of food, is cheaper. I'm also finding shopping is cheaper. I feel like Japan's a great shopping destination. We had a lot of friends who came and said, you know, it's pretty comparable in terms of the dollar, but Uniqlo here obviously is a lot cheaper than it is in Toronto, which is great, but also the vintage shopping and luxury goods shopping, it's significantly cheaper here.
You know, I'm getting paid in yen. I have some US dollars as well, but yeah, right now currency is super weak, so we feel it. I just came back from the States, and oh man, everything felt so expensive because of the currency exchange between the USD.
I mean, same for us. When you go to the States, everything's like 30% more expensive. Yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah, and my channel focuses on houses, so like Japanese real estate, and I wanted to ask, how much does it cost to buy a house in Toronto?
We just bought a house, actually.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you. It was just over 1,000 square feet, and we paid just over $1 million.
Wow.
And that was a deal at the time. Yeah.
And we're a little bit outside the city as well. We're not like downtown, so.
Yeah. Can I ask what the interest rates on your mortgage is?
Just over 5%.
Okay, that's not bad today.
Yeah, it's not bad. Yeah, it's not bad today. We're lucky.
Some friends are like over 6, so.
Yeah. And is that pretty average in Toronto? Like over $1 million for a house?
Yeah, if you're looking at like a townhouse, you're looking at like 900,000 and up. Yeah, for in the city. Yeah.
You won't find a one bedroom less than $500,000 in Toronto.
Wow. So in Japan's having an issue, probably the opposite issue that Canada's having. So there are many empty houses. It's called Akiya empty houses, and there are about 10 million empty houses across Japan. Yeah, so housing prices are a lot cheaper than Canada, like North America and Australia, most of the developed countries. So you can find, you know, houses under $100,000, like decent condition. Wow. Yeah, for like good condition, like a new house, probably like $300,000.
What's the main reason for that?
Depopulation. And really strict immigration policies. Right. So foreigners are not coming in, but you know, people are getting older, and not having, you know, people are not having kids. So that's the cycle. What do you think of those cheap houses in Japan? Do you think it's a good time to invest in Japan, real estate, or it's risky knowing that population is decreasing?
I think if I was Japanese, definitely makes sense. As a foreigner, I think I'm sure. I mean, it's obviously really far for us to travel, so it wouldn't make sense to invest. But as a local, I'm sure it's something that I think in Canada we all wish was accessible, and the fact that it's not. And you know, we have friends who live in Toronto and have come with the realization that they may never be able to buy a home. So I think that because the opportunity is here for Japanese people who are locals, I think it's fantastic that it's affordable, but obviously it's almost the other end of the spectrum where
I can't even imagine that, like, invest in something like on the side, just because it's not something that's possible back home. So
Oh wow. All right, well, my last question is, how would you describe your whole experience in Japan the last 2 weeks?
I don't want to go home.
Busy, but really exciting. We have done so many snack hauls and have had requests from friends to bring snacks back home. So very exciting, very fun.
Yeah,
would recommend.
Everything's been incredible. The city's been awesome. We went to Kyoto, Osaka, did the classic 3-city tour, and it's just been awesome, all of it. It's been amazing.
Yeah. I hope you enjoyed this type of interview. If you did, let me know in the comments below. And before we end, I have a quick announcement. We're hosting a free live training session on how to buy your first house in Japan in just 90 days on January 4th. We will share the exact steps we use to buy a property in Japan. So be sure to save your seat by registering today. The link is below. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe and watch this video next for more. See you in the next one.